First of all, the United Kingdom, where the Industrial Revolution first took place in the 18th century, ruled a lot of colonies around the world by the 19th century. The United States has since led the way in politics, economy, military, and culture since the 20th century. English, as the language of both nations, has prevailed all over the world and has become a tool in international communication. English continues to produce a lot of new jargons and notions in politics, economics, culture, and science. In such a world, the government of Japan tried to promote English education and improve English skills. Through cooperating with LTs using the knowledge that I teach at social studies and focusing on the content of English topics, I have tried to help students to understand the content of this article. I can tell during my social study classes that we can learn a lot and broaden our outlook by using and enjoying English communication. I will try to nurture these abilities and students' attitude of continuing the study of English in one's life as a tool of communication. About diversity and the tolerance of English. Since 27 BC, BC means, of course, before Christ, to 180, in other words, the second century, there was an era called Pax Romana. That era had been peaceful under the regime of the Roman Empire. The 19th century had been the era of Pax Britannica, where the Industrial Revolution broke out for the first time in the 18th century. Furthermore, it has been the era of Pax Americana, which has seen the rise of the United States as a great power politically, economically, culturally, and militarily since the 20th century. Meanwhile, English, that is the mother tongue of both nations, has been prevailing all over the world. We can see the difference between American English and British English, but also Indian English and Singaporean English. In the case of India, in the time of colonization by the UK and after independence of the UK, English became an official language, and even now, India have created English literature of Indians by Indians for Indians. AAVE, African American Vernacular Language, has a great influence on contemporary American English that is prevailing all over the world. And in the case of the United Kingdom, though the size of this nation is not so big, it has a lot of dialects and slang words. English pronunciation by announcers on the BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, is called RP, received pronunciation. But the people who speak RP make up only 2% of the population. People say that Australian English was influenced by Cockneys because the first migrants in Australia were from East London. Singaporean English is influenced by Cockneys and Cantonese and Tamil. That is the mother tongue in Singapore. In other words, English is vernacularized around the world. On the other hand, at present, English is creating more new jargons and notions than before in politics, economics, culture, and science. Being different from other languages, English is becoming varied and multi-layered. All of us need to have a conversation affirmatively without hesitating and being anxious about failure. About the result of English education in Japan. According to the statistics TOEFL, the result of average Japanese score is 9 from the bottom of 150 nations. Highlighting nations were British colonies such as India and Singapore. The rest are nations that have languages that are grammatically close to English, like Germany and Dutch. On the other hand, the lower ranking nations had not experienced British colonization, such as China, Vietnam, South Korea, and Japan. Their languages also have no similarities to English, but the government of China and South Korea think highly of English education. People believe that English is indispensable to the success of business in their life. Their English abilities are higher than Japanese. Unfortunately, there is no need and no environment to have a conversation in Japanese society. Necessity of English. As teachers of social studies, I think, firstly, as teachers of social studies, we need to know what's going on around the world. But we can know what's going on around the world in detail from only Japanese newspapers or TV news, for articles are limited regionally, and deal with sudden occurrences in our own country. Japanese media gathers articles that are gathered from major foreign news agencies and only translated from English into Japanese. Secondly, to get to know the facts and to judge the pending problems around the world, especially the interpretation of history, treaty, and territorial disputes with neighbor nations. We need to read diplomatic documents and papers. Thirdly, we need to discuss some problems in English with foreigners who are not native English speakers but also native speakers. That's why English is not only regional language but also international language. A proposal of having a class in English education for international understanding. Why are Japanese people poor at English? One reason may be because, firstly, the Japanese grammatical structure is, for the most part, quite different from English and European languages. Secondly, Japanese people don't have enough opportunity to have a conversation in English. Students in other Asian nations are taught every subject English since elementary school. But in Japan, students are taught English in Japanese by Japanese teachers and only English classes. Thirdly, compared with other Asian nations, Japanese people can receive high quality education except English. That's why in Japan, a lot of jargons or academic words translated from English into Japanese. On the other hand, in almost all of the other Asian nations, there is no jargon or academic words. For example, even chloroplast and carbon dioxide have no words in their mother tongues, so they have to study English from scratch. It's of course impossible to attain the level of fluency that English natives have, as well as those who have English as their official language. The important thing is to be able to use English as a tool of communication. That's why I began to have social studies classes with abilities using English. English education and the education for international understanding are mutual and dependent on one another. Completely method, the way of teaching in the class. As a teacher of social study, I try to have classes in a way that is different from English teacher. English ability is determined by a great number of vocabulary and a lot of knowledge. Having a lot of knowledge concerning social studies makes us understand the content of the story. For example, when someone reads article in the newspaper, if he knows the word FBI, FBI is the abbreviation, means Federal Bureau of Investigation. He can understand that the article is concerning something criminal. And if he knows the word FRB, FRB is the abbreviation of Federal Reserve Bank, that is a function of central bank. He can understand that the article is concerning something financial. Everybody knows. The White House spokesman said means something political regarding the US government. In other words, to understand what's written in English, the knowledge of social studies help to focus on the content of the article. And in the case of watching CNN, we will understand the articles from not only letters and words, but also photos and videos. I try to have social study classes in English to make the most of using such a way. I want to nurture the ability and the attitude needed to take part in spontaneously globalized society. This is the class plan for social studies. Before the class, I make a habit of discussion with ALT. And I distribute prints that I made. And I make students study reference textbook and reference material. And an ALT gives hints about these nations. For example, the USA, next, ALTs give the hint to students. The president built a big dam to rescue workers. The president recognized the rights of workers. And so I nominate the students who can understand the answer. And at last, on my class, I distribute short tests, history tests, that I made. I make students sit for the test. And the use of my website. One of the most effective ways of learning is to use the internet. It's able to provide a variety of educational materials anytime, anywhere. So I make website. The name of my website is Smash English on Google and Understandable History Smash English on YouTube. And so I take example, just a moment please. And that is my side. For example, I take about Muslim and students use this site for preparation and review in Japanese. But some students who try to study in English more and more the same material about Muslim. But this version is in English. And except that, for example, I take up news, what's trending today. For example, I gathered articles from the New York Times, Washington Post, Voice of America, The Guardian, and so on. And so I try to attract students' attention and to stimulate their curiosity. And I execute a study of students' questionnaire. From the result of the questionnaire, 90% more students support the English during social studies classes. The reasons are because it's fun and because I think I can improve my English skill and so on. They want not only an easy English conversational ability, but also an English ability. They can understand articles of newspapers and have a discussion. And 70% more students try to utilize English materials through the internet. I think I need to provide environment to keep up students' English ability. As last conclusion, almost of them think that the university entrance examination is the final goal in their life. But it's hard for them to read and discuss articles on for example, newspaper, New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal, and so on. And understand media source like CNN. If we need to promote students' English ability according to the requirement of Japan's educational ministry, Asian top-ranking nation in English ability, the present way of teaching English is not enough. In other words, university entrance examination is not the final goal, but only a starting line. We need to educate ability and the attitude of the students who try to master English strenuously after graduation from school and university. Of course, I understand that it's impossible to improve one's English ability rapidly. But I understand that I can teach students a joy and pleasure to get to know what's going on around the world through geographical, historical information and knowledge. I think it's important to teach students how to swim and to make them practice so many times. But it's also important to point out to them what direction they should swim in so that they can find land. Later, they'll see the city lights. A wonderful future is waiting for them there. I hope that my attempt to contribute to the development of international understanding will have an impact on the future of the young. Thank you for listening to my presentation. 何か質問があったら